So now that we're able to test whether or not a user is logged in or not, we're finally going to add a bit of HTML and actually have ourselves the beginnings of a web app. The thing that we need to do next is obviously create a wallet, right? So if the user isn't logged in, the next step in the workflow for the UI is going to be to create a new wallet so that the next time the user opens the web app, they will be logged in because we'll have stored their private key in the browser, right? And you can see here that I've added the wallet.newWallet under both of the cases where the user is not logged in, and up here we have the new directory wallet called wallet, essentially, right? And I've imported it here the same way we imported it in the API code as well. So we're simply just creating a new wallet and then calling new wallet on that object. So similarly, we've uncommented all the code that I've written in the previous video. So we'll uncomment that again and just kind of walk through what's going on here. So again, since we've already started with a base web app, before this we were given some CSS and also a way of like getting that CSS injected into the HTML as well, right? Because again, this video is, or sorry, rather this course is focused on Mixin development, so we're not going to discuss like how to get the HTML, how to get the CSS, how to do web development, all that stuff. That way, like what you're learning here can be applied to a React app or an Angular app or a Webpack app. Like none of this stuff should really matter. We're just going to say, assume that you have a way of serving HTML. Well, if you know how to do that, well, then this is how you do all the steps in JavaScript to interact with the Webpack application. So we have the CSS. We're importing it here. It's actually over here. This will be added in the latest commit as well, so you won't have to write your own CSS, although you're more than welcome to do that if you choose to do that. The other thing is we have an index.html. So I'll uncomment that as well, and we'll kind of look at the templating engine here in a second. But let's look at the JS first. As I said, this wallet file follows the same pattern style of development as the account one did and the API one did before that. We have this constructor where we'll get the resources that we need in this object. We'll have a prototype where we'll hook up functions to that object, and then we'll export default. We're doing the same exact thing here. But we've added a new wallet function here in this case. And all this function wallet does is, all this new wallet function does is it will serve up the HTML that we're requiring up here. And then when action.create is clicked, the action.create button is clicked, we'll simply console log client wants to create a new user, because that's what we'll do eventually. We're going to create a new user when that button is clicked. But for right now, all we're going to do is like walk through how the HTML is getting served up to the user. So back here in app.js, we're calling wallet.newWallet, and over here, we're essentially calling this method right here. And on the layout container, we have an HTML method that we're calling, and we're giving it the require template index right here. So the index.html is what will be served up to the browser when the new wallet method is actually called. So what's in this index.html? Well, it's just some fairly standard HTML. It's got some divs, so H3s, all these other things. These are defined in various different places, right? They'll quote-unquote create labels and these other things. Create button, all these other things. This is so that we can do locales, right? So you could do maybe one web app in Chinese, one web app in Japanese, one web app in English, right? You can easily inject all these different titles without having to like recompile the code in a bunch of different places. But what we're particularly interested in here is we have this button action create class right here, this A tag. And what happens is when that gets clicked, we have some jQuery here that will run the action.create on click method, and what will happen is we'll simply console log client wants to create a new user. So if you followed along up to this point, you should be able to, after writing this code yourself, adding it into the web app in all the different places, you should be able to refresh your page, and you will see all this beautiful CSS that we've pulled in over here on the web app. And you can see up here, if we refresh the page, you kind of got a glimpse as to what this looks like. This is the title that we were getting templated into. All this various text is stored somewhere in the locale. library that we're using. And then down here you can see our trusty console log statement that the user is not logged in. Let's create a wallet for them. So we're following this step up here where the user is not logged in. Let's create a new wallet for them. We're calling new wallet, and then eventually that index.html is getting served up as we'd expect up here. And if we click the create wallet button, which is here in the HTML, as we saw before, the create wallet button, right? If we create that, this gets called, and then our console log statement was getting printed to the console. Client wants to create a new user, right? And you can see here, client wants to create a new user. If we click it a bunch of times, we'll keep printing that out over and over again. So that's generally how HTML is going to be served up in this web app. We'll be creating these directories, creating our own index.html with some CSS attached with it. And then we'll be passing that into the layout container here as well. And so that anytime this method is called, we'll serve up that HTML, and then we'll just hook in with jQuery. When buttons get clicked, we'll do different actions. So in the next video, we'll actually go ahead and create this new user, and we'll actually start talking about Mixin development now. We won't be worried so much about JavaScript and setting things up. Again, I just wanted to get to a point where we can test as soon as possible, right, before we actually start implementing Mixin related code. But definitely in the next video, we're going to start talking cryptography and creating accounts and all those other good things. I'll see you in the next video.